Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody out there in the internet world. Welcome to the Unity live stream. My name is Bradston Henry. I am a senior advocate here at Unity, and I'll be your host today for the amazing conversation we're going to be having around XR. For those who don't know me, I know I might be a new face. I am just filling in for today for our normal host, Joy. She's taking some R&R, vacay, living the best life. And today I'll be the substitute host. So really happy to be here. I want to make sure that I say a special welcome, of course, to our Unity community, but also to some of the special people we have in the crowd today, our Meta community as well. I know y'all are tuning in on YouTube, out there on Twitter. We're really happy to have you all here. Today is going to be a really great conversation. We're going to be talking about XR, not just XR, but XR hands and a hands-first future. We're going to be talking about what it looks like to really focus on that input. How does it look to have XR hands and how to use your hands first and everything? So we're really excited about that. I see some people already in the chat chiming in. I see the Bull, of course. Shout out to the Bull, always one of our trustworthy friends in the chat. I see Amanda at Unity. Hey, good to see you there. I see Peaches Paget, Rebuild 3, so many people in the different chats. I'm really excited that we're gonna be having a good time together. So I could talk all day, but I want to introduce some friends that I have that are coming to join us today. So if they will join me on the stage. Hey, so we have a lot of cool faces in the crowd today. If you don't mind just waving to the crowd. So today, this will be our band that will be playing the song of XR and Hands First Future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the horn and get everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. So first, I'm going to start with you, Alex. Alex, welcome to the stream. If you could share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and maybe why XR? Why do you do XR?
So I'm a senior software engineer on the XR authoring team, specifically focused on interaction in XR. And one of the reasons why I kind of really got into XR was my interest in multi-user and collaborative XR experiences.
Awesome. Love it. Awesome. Next up, we got Dave. Dave from Unity. If you don't mind introducing yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Dave Ruddell. I'm the senior manager here for the XR authoring and input team. We typically handle things like the templates that you see out there on Unity Hub, the XR interaction toolkit, and of course the XR hands package. And you'll get to see a little bit of all that today. And I got into XR. Really, I saw it as a really compelling medium to tell more narrative stories, to kind of immerse the user in the world where this story is going on. And so, it goes way back to like the days of like the holodeck and stuff like that. Just this like true imagination of the game's world. So that's really what pulled me into it. So
I love that immersiveness. I can't lie. That's kind of what brought me into XR as well. Just feeling the presence of other people and then feeling that, So we got next up, we have a very special guest representing Meta, Dilmer. Dilmer, introduce yourself, who you are and what you
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. I love Unity and I've been using these tools for a long time. So yeah, I'm a developer advocate at Meta. And what got me into XR, I think the 900 videos that I created with Unity and then XR, no, but I started a long time working on, I watched a movie called The Indie Game and I developed a game in about 3 years, went to bed about 3 a.m. And then one day iPhone released ARKit and I basically converted that game into an augmented reality experience, and just seeing that game in my house in the physical world really got my attention. I really loved being able to see a virtual object in the real world. So many different tools and SDKs that give me that sense of presence now, and using mixed reality. I'm really passionate about that. But I'm super passionate about XR and specifically anything related to mixed reality. Yep.
I love it. Love it. No, thank you, Dilma. I have to say that I didn't share this with you, but Dilma, you're my goals, right? When I first started becoming an advocate, I remember watching your channel and being like, that's who I want to be. Like, and really like learning a lot from what you did, and especially your passion for AR, XR, VR, everything really inspired me. And it's really cool to have you here. So thank you for joining us today. Really, thank you. And last but not least, we have Ketki from Unity. If you don't mind introducing yourself and telling people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Ketki Jadhav. I am a product designer here at Unity, and I design everything related to mixed reality experiences. And some of the tools that we are demoing today have been designed by me. And I think the reason why I feel really drawn towards mixed reality is because it's, like everyone said, it's a magical medium, but also because it is so challenging, and there's always something new coming out every day. There are no guidelines for how things should be designed, and I get to be that person who can figure out these complex challenges, and that just keeps things really fresh. It's very, nice and challenging. So I love that.
Yeah, I love it. I love that that challenge, like feeling
Yeah.
like something new every day. And I feel like I imagine all of us here, that's what's brought us into tech in general, into the game development, real-time 3D world, and of course into XR. And I'm excited about the conversation for those who are just joining us. And you've probably seen the title, but today we're going to be talking about the XR landscape and how it's evolving to be hands first. So we're going to be doing a lot of cool things. We're going to have some demos. We're going to have some discussion. We're going to learn a lot. So to kick us off, to get us started talking about XR hands and a hands first future, I'm going to actually pass it off to you, Ketki, to kind of give us an overall look at the hands first paradigm and the future that is coming. So Ketki, I hand it off to you.
Awesome. So hi everyone. Really excited to be here. I want to start by talking about how hand tracking has been evolving over the years. So hand tracking has been a supported mixed reality input for many years, but you must have noticed that a lot of games up till now used to be built with controllers as the main mode of input until now, and then hand tracking would be added as a secondary layer. You'll notice that the default has started changing as the headsets are getting lighter and more wearable. And with this whole initiative, we want to help you think about building interactions that are built for hands first, not as an afterthought. So in the introduction, I will be covering these three sections. The context that's driving the shift towards this hand tracking first initiative, the upside or the opportunity that it unlocks for developers, and what has been Unity's approach in all of this. So starting off with the context, as I mentioned, headsets have been getting lighter over the years. In the image that you see here is the Quest 1 compared to the Quest 3, and those are just the two devices, but you have so many more. But you can already see that the Quest 3 is like almost 40% smaller than the Quest 1, and now the more recent ones are much smaller in terms of form factor, all of these mixed reality devices. The headsets are being designed for portability. You'll also notice some of the newer ones either don't have cords or they have few to no accessories. When you get rid of controller, which is one of the main accessories, it makes it more portable, but also the next best, not the next best, I would say the equal input, which is really great, is hand tracking. So when you take controllers away, hand tracking becomes like the first thing that you think of, and it's really great for a lot of different reasons. Along the same lines of hardware evolution, you'll also notice that tracking sensors have been getting better and better over the years. So hand tracking is a pretty complex technology. In the GIF, you'll see those little cubes on the hands. That's basically the joints that are being perceived by the sensors. And all of that joint data, the position and the rotation of those joints, together construct a virtual hand. Obviously not an easy technological feat to achieve. So previously, a few years ago, you could see that when your real hand moved, the virtual hand would sometimes have a little bit of a lag, which could cause like a little bit of motion sickness. When you're in the virtual reality game or mixed reality game, it can kind of break that immersion when things are not like aligning perfectly. But all of that the sensor quality has improved, and it's really crossed the threshold for becoming super reliable and low latency. So you don't notice all of those lags or latency things before, and it brings in that presence again. So with all of these big advancements, the headsets becoming lighter, the tracking sensors becoming better, we can also see that OpenXR has also signaled that, yes, hands are here to stay and they should be an OpenXR standard, which of course makes it easy for someone to build once and deploy it across all of these different devices. So the opportunity that it unlocks for our developers, it's really exciting. Hand tracking and gestures are something that feel very intuitive and natural to humans. Gestures can express intentions more directly. When you put someone in a virtual reality game and you ask them to do a ask them to select something, you'll notice almost always everyone will either try to poke something or pinch something. It's just that intuitive. Another example is the GIF that's playing here. It's from a game called Cubism. It's a fantastic VR MR game. If you haven't checked it out, it's amazing. But there's this summon gesture in that. So there are these puzzle pieces floating around, and then when you summon them towards you, they actually like come towards you. And that is just such a beautiful but simple way of implementing a hands interaction. It also makes the magical feeling of virtual reality very upfront in a subtle way, because imagine in real life, if you do that, nothing's going to come towards you. But in virtual reality, you can do that, and hand tracking can unlock experiences like that. I'm not able to move to, just a second. Yeah, okay. And hand tracking also lowers the barrier to entry. So you have all of these different controllers. They come with, they all have different buttons. And that's something that you have to think about a little bit. Like, what does a trigger do? What does a grip button do? What does the X or Y button do? Of course, controllers have a lot of pros of their own. You have haptics that come with it, precision that comes with it, but there is that mental load of trying to understand all the button combinations, which goes away with hand tracking. With controllers, there's also a challenge of keeping your controllers charged all the time, or if they get damaged, you have to repair and replace them. And that kind of limits the portability of devices. If you just take away controllers, you always have your hands with you. And hand tracking makes things feel more tailored and immersive. So when you see your hands in virtual reality, it's just a different kind of presence that you feel. You feel more connected to the game, and custom gestures keep the story very engaging. So in the GIF that you see here, it's from this game called Elixir from Magnopus Studios, another fantastic game that I highly recommend checking out. But the plot is you are sneaking around in this witch's dungeon, and anything that you touch gives you superpowers. So in this GIF, when you touch something, you get like this electricity power. So when you squeeze your hands, you're actually like generating electricity. And that's something that just feels so cool that you won't be able to feel that with a controller, because you don't get that actual physical reaction. And things like this are unlocked with hand tracking. So examples like Cubism, Elixir are really great examples of hands forward thinking, where hand tracking has been added with a lot of intention and care, and we want to enable the same for you. So that has been Unity's approach. We think of it as, if we want to enable you to make cool experiences, we have to make the tooling for it very easy and efficient to use. So yeah, Dave is going to talk about all the different cool new features that are coming out in the future. We have lots of big plans for making hand tracking really robust. But some of the first two features that we thought would get the highest priority, that should make this entire creation process super easy, is the ones that we are presenting today. So we have XR hand capture. So imagine if you think about the Elixir experience, when I say you want to squeeze your hand, if I want to make that gesture, all I have to do with XR hand capture is make that shape, use my virtual reality headset, and literally just take a photo. and import it into my Unity game, and that's it. Like, you can immediately start using that gesture as is. And it's so easy that I can create hundreds of different shapes and experiment with all kinds of weird and wild ideas that I have. And it just gets the creative juices flowing. When you're not thinking about the technology that much, you can get more creative and think about the experience part of it more. And then we also know that when you are developing games, making a build and jumping into the editor and then putting it on the headset can add like significant delay in the entire process. You have to keep jumping back and forth between the thing. And previously, our simulation tools did not have hand tracking, which it wasn't that robust. So we have changed that, and we have completely rehauled our simulator to support not just basic hand tracking experiences, but also a lot of these custom gestures that you might create with the XR hand capture. So now you will be able to just stay in the editor till you are in that final stage where you're really wanting to push and like finesse and you want to make a build. But till then, almost 70% of your workflow, which is in the editor, you can just stay in there with our simulator and yeah, keep building for that. And Alex is going to demo that in a while. But on an ending note, Unity's philosophy has always been build once and deploy everywhere. We have all of these mixed reality packages, XR Hands, XR Interaction Toolkit. Those are the ones in which you'll find the two new tools that I mentioned. But you also have AR Foundation, which has very cool features like hand occlusion, which can create more natural immersion when you want to use mixed reality features like pass-through. All of these are built on the OpenXR standard. So when you build it once, you can deploy it on any OpenXR compliant headset. So yeah, that's been our stance on it. And I'm excited to hand it over to Dilmer to talk about Meta's approach in all of this.
And before Dilmer, you jump in, first of all, thank you so much, Ketki. This is great. We have some questions coming in from those tuning in. Some kind of simple questions, kind of give some framing of what XR is, and then some maybe some more questions you can answer, Ketki. The first is just kind of a very simple question. You know, what kind of hardware or what type of hardware can XR and VR run on currently, and how can people get engaged with it?
So you have a lot of different types of headsets. Some of them are OpenXR compliant, some of them are not, but you have anything that starts with like big bulky headsets that have all the different features. I shouldn't say big bulky, but more powerful headsets that have all kinds of features that you would ever want, like pass-through and object recognition and more of the meaty features of XR. You have a whole range of that, but you also have the super lightweight glasses that have fewer but lighter experiences. So you can build for any of that. The ones that the features that we are showing you are would be great if they're on the OpenXR side, but you can literally build for any mixed reality headset.
Awesome. Thank you, Farouk Kafayat, for asking that question. We have another question for you, Ketki. What type of use cases, you shared a little bit of kind of the game type of environment. Somebody asked about simulation business environment. Are there uses for hands-free uses in VR and AR for, healthcare or something else?
Yeah, the tools that we are launching are not limited to any specific gaming use case at all. It can be used for all kinds of use cases, and for sure, for each of the verticals, there will be places where hands make more sense, where controllers make more sense. It all depends on the context, really. But the tools that we are putting out are very context agnostic. You can literally use them for building any kind of experience.
Thank you so much, Ketki. And thank you, Andres, I think, who shared that question in the YouTube chat. Thank you so much. So, Dilmer, love to hear your perspective, the meta perspective. I saw some head nodding when we were talking about controllers.
Yeah.
The batteries dying. I was like, oh, that just happened to me like a few days ago. So, yeah, Dilmer, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, the hands-first future, what Meta's thinking about, what you're thinking about. Yeah, please.
Yeah, no, Ketki, great job on the presentation. Really enjoy it. And I was noting because a lot of what she said is what I'm experiencing. I'm more of a practical, so I like to create a lot of prototypes that use hands, and I also did a lot of work with controllers. So just to give you some context on hand-first development and how things have evolved over the years is when I first started working on XR, it used to be and I always say this on every talk, is there used to be a folder, and there used to be an Oculus folder that you had to drag and drop into Unity, and it was a very manual process. And if you wanted to implement hand tracking, it was pretty cumbersome because you had to basically understand the architecture, how to design the structure to be able to get the skeleton data into the hands, how to actually capture different gestures. And like looking back, how things have evolved from Unity with XR Hands, which Unity just talked about, but also on our side, on the Meta side, things have evolved. We used to have Oculus integration. Now we have a variety of different SDKs. And I always recommend people to think about, like, if you're using the XR Toolkit and XR Hands, that's more of your cross-platform solution. That's the one that I normally recommend. I know I might get some pushback from people inside of Meta about this, but that's my recommendation. And then if you want to get closer to like Quest and with more robust platform features that are specifically to Quest devices, then I recommend Meta Interaction SDK. So just that's my recommendation. So now for hand-first development, the idea is that we're not really replacing controllers, right? We're thinking about expanding what is possible. We're thinking about experiences that use hands to begin with. And we have a lot of different tools right now that provide you with that. And I mentioned it, it's the Meta Interaction SDK. And this provides a variety of features. You can access them from something called building blocks, which basically just allows you to drag and drop components into your hierarchy, to also agentic workflows, so which I'll show you here in just a minute. But it's gotten so easy that you can just have a component on the Unity scene. You can drag and drop a grabbable component. All of a sudden, you can grab that component. So the Interaction SDK supports multiple building paths. We also recently, I think about a year or so, we introduced micro gestures, and that's the idea of capturing very low effort micro gestures with your fingers, kind of like doing a D-pad in a D-pad fashion. And we have seen a lot of exciting projects built with those tools. We also have something called multimodal support, which you'll see here on the right-hand side. And that's the idea that you can use a controller on one hand or hands on another hand. And one example of that is if you were playing, let's say you're playing ping pong, and you have with one controller, you have the racket, and then with the other one, you grab the ball, and then you launch it with one hand, and then with the controller, you basically hit it. So multimodal input, it's also a feature that has been added. And then I say tracking here keeps getting better because on every iteration, I think we started on 1.7 and then moved to 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and every iteration, tracking gets a lot better to a point where even if you have low light, hand tracking, it's really good. Jittery, it's not as jittery anymore. Latency, it's a lot better as well. So on the right side, I'm going to show you some different examples that I built recently by using some of our tools, the Interaction SDK, Meta XR Core. And on this side, I started with the idea of building a basketball game, which basically was using controllers. It was all developed using controllers and keeping that in mind. Then on the right side, I ended up using Meta Interaction SDK. This could actually work with XR Hands if I wanted to implement it with those features. The feature set is very similar when it comes to that. But you can see on the right image here where I converted it to a tabletop game. There are a lot of interactions in here. You can see that the hands are the tracking is pretty good. There's also gesture recognition that happens when I'm pulling the ball back. There's also poke interactions on the UI. So when you're thinking about building for hands, you got to think about what are some of the interactions that are going to feel more natural. In the case of the tabletop game, I wanted to build something, and I got this idea from Cubism that was mentioned earlier. because if you have a table and you're basically tapping on the table surface and you have a poke that gets initiated, it just feels a lot more natural. So whenever you're developing for these type of interactions, it's always good to understand what are the physical surfaces or environment that you can use to make the experience more intuitive. So that's why the power of mixed reality is not just adding a virtual object in the world, but also using the scene as a way of overlaying digital objects. Then on the bottom, you can see also another prototype that I did for GDC where I am using multimodal features. So you can see here, I'm using the controller. There's a hand on the other side. So that's another feature that we also added recently. Now, on the next slide, I'm going to show you some of the different features that are available with the Meta interaction SDK. So you can see here the grab interactions, how realistic it looks when you grab objects. Also, we have different transformers in here, like you can actually limit how much you can scale an object. Also, if you want to do far interactions with UI, those are also available. And Unity also has a pretty cool examples package that shows you how to use these features if you wanted to support that on a cross-platform level. And then you can see here different interactions, different gestures, which we're going to be covering in detail today. And also some different interactions for objects that are at the distance, and also more advanced hand grab uses. But that's my part. I think I'm gonna hand it over back to you, Brandon.
Yeah. So I want to throw a question your way, Dilmer, because I know you've had a lot of experience in the AR, VR, XR space. There was a question around, the hands first future of controller versus hands.
Mhm.
How do you feel like the future will look like with both of those at the same time? Is it going to look like it's going to go away? There's kind of a question from the chat about kind of what that will look like or how that will feel.
Yeah. I really agree with with Ketki on the friction. So one of the advantages to me that I was able to move faster through development with hands is that I didn't have to. That's what I was noting, because I don't have to charge my controllers. I don't need to figure out where they are. The battery. Like if I can just put the headset on, the Quest 3 is a lot lighter, and I can actually just start developing with it. I don't have to carry the controllers in my backpack. So that to me, it's very convenient when it comes to not just because of that, but like if you're thinking about experiences that you don't have to worry about the friction from the user, and more about because engagement is really important, right? Like I make YouTube videos, and if somebody leaves the video in the first 20 seconds, then you're not gonna get good retention. So the same thing with devices. If you have to require all these different accessories like controllers, then friction, that friction is going to be less. So for me, it's I wouldn't say it'll replace controllers, but there's going to be a lot more opportunity for people that want to leverage that technology because it's getting so much better. You still need to have your hands sort of like in the field of view, right? Like it's not like the Meta display glasses where you have a wristband that is capturing your muscle signals. But at the same time, it's getting so much better though. Like even if you have low light and you have your hands not right in the field of view, it'll still detect different gestures. It'll detect your hands. It's really magical when you start. If you look at how hand tracking was, I would say a few years back, and you look at it now, it's like, are we from another planet? Who is developing this technology? Because it's getting better and better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dilmer, for that perspective. So now that we've talked a little bit about, the hands first future, just kind of XR hands and what different technologies kind of are in that space, let's take a look at kind of how it's working and the tools that we have to use within this space that is XR hands. So I'm going to be handing it over to Dave here to talk a little bit about the gesture recorder and what that is, how that works, and how it works within the XR hands toolkit and XR interaction toolkit. So Dave, if you mind taking it from here and talk a little bit about it.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, as Ketki showed earlier, we've got a number of tools here at Unity, both built into our XR Hands package and our XR Interaction Toolkit. So I'm going to walk you through how easy it is to actually pull down these assets and samples and throw them on your device and start capturing hands right away. So I've got my project open here. So it's just standard Unity project. I actually created this from our VR template. So like I mentioned earlier, we have templates on the hub. There's some for VR, for AR mobile, for mixed reality, and then we have a couple of multiplayer ones as well. So if you're trying to get started doing multiplayer XR development, highly recommend jumping in and looking at those. But this one, normally it's just a normal scene. I have already downloaded the sample from Package Manager, but I'll just kind of guide you through this just so you can kind of see what it would look like from your perspective if you're going to go jump in and try to use this yourself. So in Package Manager, you can go to the XR Hands package, and normally when you pull in one of our templates, you would just have the hand visualizer sample imported. I've gone ahead and imported the gestures sample as well as the hand capture sample. Couple of notes on the hand capture one. I believe it depends on URP and TextMesh Pro, or I guess it's just Unity UI now and Unity 6. And then the XR Interaction Toolkit samples as well. So it depends on the starter assets and the hand interaction demo to kind of pull in those hand assets, as well as our spatial keyboard. So these are all great samples that we've included as part of our various tools and toolkits. Highly recommend going through and checking these out. A lot of people don't know these exist, but they really help get you started. There's prefabs in there. There are input actions, all of the things that you need to just drop it in your project and get started immediately. So going back to the hand capture tool, what you see on the screen here is the hand capture tool. Now, a couple of caveats with this. You can run it in the editor, but you can't actually capture and save anything. So this does need to be deployed to a device. For this demo, I'm putting it on a Quest 3. And part of the workflow, and you'll see why this it has to be this way, at least for now, is to pull it back into the editor from the device once it's recorded to the disk on device. So what you would do, open the scene, go to your build profiles. I currently have active the MetaQuest build profile. I've put the hand capture in the scene list here. And then we would just normally do a build. I'm going to save us a little bit of time here. I've already built it. And so I'm just going to drop it on device. So there's a couple of ways to do this. You can do build and run from the editor. The other way that we like is using the MetaQuest Developer Hub. It's super handy if you're working with Quest devices. You can grab logs and set up your casting, all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and this is already plugged in, and let's see, load this on. So I previously built this, so I'm going to drop the hand capture app on here. It's installing.
So overall, I see the flow is very smooth to kind of get from that build of the
Yes.
custom gesture to getting it on the device so you can capture. And I love that the templates allow that. That's really cool.
Yeah, the goal is really to make it as easy as possible to jump in and get going with as little friction, even for developers. So users is one thing, developers is like a whole nother thing. So now you can see I'm in the application for hand recording. If you're not familiar with this and you want to know kind of what to expect, you can click on see steps. This is just from pointing and pinching. So it kind of tells you what to expect as you're going through it. We also have documentation that walks you through the whole process as well on our website. But I'm going to go ahead and click start. So we have, once you're in here and you're starting recording, we have 5 slots to record to. That's just kind of our arbitrary limit. You could probably go in and modify this yourself if you really wanted to. Each recording is up to 60 seconds. Typically, you won't need that long to, grab a few hand gestures, but we give you a lot of time so that you can do that. Also be aware that you can do a whole bunch of hand shapes and gestures in a single recording. It doesn't have to be just one gesture, like, a thumbs up, and then you go on to the next recording. You can do all of your hand gestures within that 60 seconds. And I'll show you later how you can scrub through and pick the slices out of the recording that you're going to use for your project. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and hit record. So now let's see, I'll start with, peace sign, thumbs up. Ketki was showing the gripped fists. Yeah, and then I'll just go ahead and click stop. And now this also gives you an opportunity to name it so that it's easier to find in your project later. I'm going to clear that, and I'll just say demo. And again, this is our spatial keyboard. This is included in XRI. So if you want a customizable keyboard in your experience, you can go ahead and pull this in to your own project and use it. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter and then save. So now I've got three recordings. The one we just recorded was demo. I'm going to go ahead and jump out of this now and quit, and then jump back to the editor. So in the editor, now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and look at our hand capture window. So we're going to go into Window XR Hand Capture, and this will bring up our kind of hand capture window or tool. As soon as we pull it in or open it up, if there's already something in here, I was playing around with it yesterday, so there's already something there. But this is also part of the workflow. So step one, we want to import the recordings that we have into our project. So we're going to click this import from connected headset button. It's going to go talk to the device, pull it in. It will create copies if you already have recordings in your project, but you can see down here, here's our demo recording that we've just taken. If you are super curious, if you're the technical type and you want to know a little bit more about like, what the heck is it that we're actually capturing, whether it's for privacy reasons or just general curiosity, you can actually look at the debug view of this and kind of drill through like, what are all the things that we're capturing as part of this? Because we're capturing all the joints, right? We're capturing each joint, I think once or twice a frame, depending on the configuration, but we're also capturing input from kind of the OpenXR runtime as well. So we're capturing things like, was an aim pose made, or poke, or grab gesture, whatever those other common things that are coming through the runtime are, we are also capturing those. And there's an important reason for that, and Alex will be able to show that later as well. We actually use that to drive our interaction on the simulator side. But if you wanted to jump down and see like, the aim states of things, like you can look and see like, oh, are we pinching at this frame? So just for general curiosity, if you wanted to see, that's what that looks like. However, we'll go back to the hand capture tool. So we've imported our captures here, our recordings, and I'm going to take this one. This is the demo one we just had, and I'm going to drop it into recording. And you'll see as soon as we drop it in that the hands in the scene editor or the scene view change. And then we have basically our scrubber here. So you can see this is what I just recorded. You can kind of scrub through and pick what you want. So let's see here. Let's grab the peace sign or victory sign, whatever you want to call it. And from here, we have our frame number. That can be used for a variety of things. Alex will show one way that we use that frame number. But then we can also click compute finger values. What this will do is generate that hand shape, and you can tweak it here, but we're going to save it off first, and you can tweak it later, and I'll show you a little bit more about how that works. But this is kind of our view of the world of like, what does it mean to be a hand shape? So then I've already created an asset here for this V hand shape, this victory hand shape, and I'm going to go ahead and overwrite this. Actually, hold on. Before I do that, and make sure it's the correct hand. Yeah, I'm going to switch to the right hand. Through compute fingers. There we go. Now I'm going to save this off. So when you save a shape, it does save what the handedness is, which is, it can be important to your application. So if you had something that's specifically a right hand gesture, you're going to want to record that shape separately. So we have two types of assets when we're dealing with hand capture. We have, in gesture recognition, we have our shape and we have our pose. And the difference here, a shape is purely the curl and the splay of the fingers, with no orientation involved. But when we are thinking of a hand pose, it's that shape. So I can plug in this shape and then set the conditions in which that shape becomes a pose or gets activated. So for example, I can drill in here and say palm direction aligns with origin up. So if I put my palm up in that V shape, that would trigger this pose. And you can use those for a variety of things. There's shape recognition built into Unity now, as well as pose recognition. So depending on your application, that's the difference between putting your hand out and saying this is stop, or this is give me something, right? And so when you're defining how these things work in your application, this gives you that flexibility to just have one shape that works for multiple poses. All right, so what can I do with this now? Well, the next step is, let's take a look at how that works with our debugger. So another tool that we shipped a year ago or so is our hand gesture debugger. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that scene. And I'm going to close this out for now since we don't need it. So we have this debug tool that lets you debug shapes and poses. Right now, the hand shape debugger is what is open. There's also an advanced pose debugger. So if you're debugging more than just the shape, but also the pose, this one's really handy because you can actually add your own. You can kind of see how these are constructed, and you can copy and paste them in and test your own poses. Highly recommend doing that, especially on a wide audience that has a variety of different hand sizes and shapes and configurations, just to make sure that your application is going to work for all of the different types of hands and users out there. But the nice thing about this one is, once you put these in, if you make that pose, these will light up, and it will light up more than one. So if somehow you made a pose that maybe overlapped in some way, and you were trying to debug why my application is firing two events at the same time, this would be a good way to diagnose what's going on. So we've given you the tools to do that. Hopefully you find them useful. We're always welcoming feedback. So, if you go onto the discussions or on Discord, please let us know. That's the hand pose debugger. And then going back to the shape. So this is the one I'm going to show since I just recorded a shape. So as you drill in, you can see it says start here, and we have a left hand and a right hand. And I've already pulled it in there, but I'll do it again for the sake of the demo. I'm going to pull this V hand shape in for the right hand. And so when I run this, you will see all of the different things, the chart, or the bars on the side, moving to where the curl values are. And it will also show the tolerance of those. So one thing, when you're looking at a shape, there's this threshold. And so if I want to increase the threshold of detection, I can do that. And right now, I'm not able to run this over link for a variety of reasons. So I can't run it and show you how these things work live. But if you're in your development environment and you're iterating, you can actually run this tool over link, no problem, and tweak these values live to see how they impact whether or not the gesture is recognized. This one I also built previously, so I won't make you wait through the build process, although we all know it's there. So let's jump in here. I'm going to go ahead and drop this onto the device. It's the same project, but here we have our gesture debugger. I'm going to drop that in and install it, and then jump back to show you how the debugger tool works. right, so we're going to go ahead and launch. Here. Oh, looks like it got hung up. 1 second. Restart it. All right, there we go. So again, pinch to hold if it's not right in front of you. And so now we've got our debug view. By default, for this scene, we turn on all the joint debugging as well, so you can kind of see how the hand joints are oriented, in case that helps you diagnose what's going on. But again, so the default, I think, for the left hand is a thumbs up. So you'll see the graphs on the left. If I make a thumbs up, they all go green. But if I were to make a peace sign over there, nothing goes green. Whereas on the other side, I make a thumbs up. There's a few things that are going green, but really it's that peace sign that's going to make that go green. And so again, if you look, you can see the different thresholds. The green bars are that width of that threshold that allows detection. And the white bar that slides up is how close you are to that area where detection will happen. That's it. That's pretty much how the tool works. I'm going to go ahead and quit out of that. And again, you can iterate as much as you want. You can make as many poses as you want. I will say that the more poses that you are trying to detect and recognize, the more burden it might put on your device. So if you are running on, a robust device like a Quest 3, you're probably not going to run into too many issues. But there are a lot more lightweight devices coming out that have a little bit less compute power. So just be mindful of how much you're putting on the device when you're doing this development. We have lots of performance tools that can help you kind of figure that out as you're going along, but just wanted to throw that out there as you're building. Yeah, and I think I think that's it for the tools. Bradson,
yeah, thank you so much, Dave. Yeah, there's been quite a bit of chatter about how cool this technology is, people envisioning what this could be used for. Somebody was asking about the debugger, and it's cool that you showed that. So thank you so much. We did have some questions from the chat in general that I wanted to ask. I'm going to throw it to you, Ketki, kind of to give your thoughts about this. But specifically, there's questions about, controller versus hands first, particularly around haptics and locomotion. There's users out there on YouTube, Venrau, Andres, and Greg Kornev, who've asked these questions about locomotion and how that works. So, Ketki, what are your thoughts about, the fact that, you're not going to be able to use controller? What happens to haptics? How do you move now in XR? And of course, if there's anybody else who wants to chime in, yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of points in that. We do have a locomotion, hand-related locomotion, so that shouldn't be an issue. But also with this entire presentation, we recognize how important both the input methods are. Like, as I mentioned during my slides, controllers have pros of their own. They come with haptics, they come with precision. The point is to not replace controllers, but to just think of hand interaction more intentionally, because what we had seen so far was because controller was the main mode of input through these years, and hand tracking wasn't. Hand tracking was always layered in as a secondary idea. So the interactions that came in as a secondary option, they didn't feel as intentional. They didn't fit in with purpose. And I can give you an example of that. So I think of the summon gesture only because it's at the top of my mind. But if I was developing it with controllers, one of the easiest ways to bring an object close towards me is you select it with your controller, and then you use the trackpad or the thumbstick and you pull it towards you, and that just makes the piece come towards you. Now, if I was not thinking about hands intentionally, I would have probably done the same thing, selected the piece with my hand and then maybe tried to pull it with a hand ray, which doesn't feel as comfortable. But the summon gesture is like a really good example of how there is intentionality, and it doesn't always map one-to-one with controllers. Like, you have to think of it differently, and you have to think of, like Dilmer mentioned, you have to think about the context of what is your physical space and what is the user doing. So with this entire thing, with this presentation, we want to just help you think of hands first, not hands only, so not replacing controllers. Just think of hands more intentionally, and give you tools that will take away that technical overload so that you can think of these things first. But yeah, Dave, Alex, Dilma, feel free to chime in.
I can add a little bit to it, because that was a great explanation. So I do a lot of hackathons, and last year we had like tracks that were specifically to hand tracking, and I always get that question. It's like, Dilmer, but like using hand tracking is not the same as using controllers, precision. It always comes to mind, but it all like comes down to first like what you're building, and doing hand first means that when you're designing your experiences to work. Like, to me, would be the wider amount of features that I'm going to support in my game. The core features are going to be specifically to hands. Then I would see, it really depends on your goals, but if controllers might be an optional, and I'm doing that right now with the basketball game that I show in the early slides. My son is like, Dad, why don't you support controllers? And I'm like, just because I don't think controllers will work great. And he's like, well, what if you still allow the player to grab the ball with the controller and pull it back? And then I'm like, well, what about the interactions on the poke interactions? I designed them in a way that you were going to be basically doing a poke on a flat surface. Well, that doesn't feel quite right. Like, you're all of a sudden you're poking a controller through your table, which is kind of weird. But it's still functional, right? So that you can give your user the option to use it, but it wasn't designed as hand first. If you're thinking the haptics to you, specifically, like we have the Meta Haptics SDK, which basically goes into very detail of different ways that you can use haptics. Like, it's basically based on sound, and there's waves that you can design on a tool called the Studio. And if that is your use case because you want to give the user more control, then in that case, I would say for you will be controllers first, but maybe you could also add hands as an additional option. But yeah, it's all based on use case, and basically it has to be thought of at the very initial phase of the design.
Yeah, I'll just jump in there real quick. Another thing is, like, if you're considering building for hands first versus controllers, I mentioned before we have some samples. Our hand interaction demo in our XRI package does have automatic switching between hands and controllers. So if you want to get a good feel for how those interactions differ between hands versus controllers, whether it's poking, whether it's grabbing and picking things up, we even have hand teleportation in there. You kind of do a gesture and then pinch. All of those things are kind of baked in, so you can kind of get a feel for, hey, what is this idea that I have in my head, and does this input modality work for this application? And then, right from there, you can kind of start playing around with, like, can I drop my ideas into this sample and kind of run with it? So highly recommend checking that stuff out, just to kind of feel out, like, is it the right thing for your application or not? So.
Yeah, another question that we got from FawnWorks is asking about mixing the two, right? Can you do hands and controller? I see Dilmer, you nodding a bit. Do you have any inputs on that? Dave, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, Dave, like, I'm sure, like, those examples that he just recommended are like, just go ahead and take a look. We also have something called a Meta Interaction SDK samples package, and there are some demos in there that use something called multimodal. So what Dave was talking about is automatic detection. Basically, you pull the controllers down, and at first it detected the controllers. That's how you initiated the application. You put them down on the table, and the headset is smart enough to know that, oh, now you're going to be using hands because I detect the hands. But there's also other use cases where you may want to, and this could be more like maybe I've seen it from healthcare. There's a lot of hackers that have been building experiences where they want to simulate operations on patients. So using hands might not be maybe you could offer hands, but it's more precise if you use controllers, right? Like if you wanted to track, have better, like more accurate tracking during those procedures, maybe you do allow hands for certain reasons, where you can basically look at a menu right on your hand, or grab an object with your hand, but then on the right hand you use your controllers. So that's called multimodal. And that is supported on the Unity side with XR hands, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave or Alex.
Not yet. We've talked about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Currently, that is a feature only available with the Meta Interaction SDK. So.
Okay.
No, thank y'all. Thank y'all all for the question. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump a little bit forward. And first of all, I wanted to say to the community, thank y'all for the questions. I'm watching the chat. I'm trying to keep up because I see questions about motion, about how does it work in different scenarios? Just people thinking through different ideas. We'll definitely try to tackle as many questions as we can. We're a bit limited on time. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take a quick transition over to looking at the XR simulator. Hopefully we'll get some more demos in to get from both Alex and Dilmer here in a second. So I'm going to hand it over to Alex to share a little bit about our XR simulator, how it works from a hands-first perspective.
Cool. Yeah, so is my screen being shared here? Okay, great. So yeah, just a little bit of a background for those of you who might be new to the tool. I'm going to demo hand interactivity in the XR interaction simulator. But the purpose of the XR interaction simulator is to address a very specific pain point with XR development. And that's basically the whole process of having to build and deploy the device, which can be very time consuming for people when they're designing their applications. So the simulator kind of bypasses all that. By simulating headset, controllers, hands, and the input from those. So maybe some of you in the audience might recall that there used to be something called the XR device simulator. So the XR device simulator is kind of like an older version of the XR interaction simulator. The XR interaction simulator has a couple of new features. It also has an overhaul of the UI, which helps anybody kind of trying to use the tool to learn, what buttons to press and stuff like that, instead of having to go to a document on the side to learn all of that. So two of the big features that the XR interaction simulator provides that is different from the device simulator is hand interactivity. And originally the old device simulator had static hand poses, but you couldn't really interact with the scene with those. Now, thanks to the hand capture changes, you can actually have single frame, multi-frame hand poses that can completely interact with the scene, all from the editor without ever having to deploy to device. So let me get everyone up to speed on how to set up the interaction simulator in your scene. So if you go to the package manager and you just go to the XR interaction toolkit samples tab, you can scroll down, and here you can see there is an XR interaction simulator package. You just need to import that, and the way that you get it to kind of spawn into your scenes is go into project settings, and down in XR plugin management, if you check the XR interaction toolkit submenu, you can see there is a setting here to use XR interaction simulator in scenes. Technically, you could go into the sample folder and also drag the prefab into your scene, but ideally this is like using the settings is the best case, because you can kind of control it a bit more, in the sense that you can also check this box here that says instantiate in editor only, because technically the simulator is an editor only tool and it wouldn't be as useful to spawn while you're on device. Cool. So let me basically show the general functionality of the simulator. So you can see here I am. This is like FPS mode. It's simulating as if you had gotten in a headset and you're holding your controllers. So I can move forward in the scene. I can also switch over to kind of device mode. And I want us to look a little bit at the UI in the upper left corner. You can see that it displays that I am using my left controller, and there are 4 quick action buttons. This is kind of a way to speed up interaction. So you can go ahead and let's say I want to use the grip. I can scroll over to the grip by pressing the tilde and press space. And then now I'm locked in a holding the grip, and I can interact with the scene all from the editor without having to actually use real controllers. I also wanted to kind of show here, we also have these additional menus in the bottom left corner that in case if you're new to this tool, it kind of helps you learn what buttons you need to press, what hotkeys perform what. And I kind of, so Ketki is kind of the master designer behind all of this. So I wonder, Ketki, do you want to chime in a little bit about your thoughts behind this UI design?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. But the goal for the simulator was that we want to help take away all that mental load of remembering all the different buttons that you have to press, because controllers have so many buttons and all of those have to map to some key on the keyboard, and having separate keys for all of that can be really confusing. And then you'll always need that menu open and you'll need to keep referencing it, and that kind of takes away the whole thing of like how you're testing. You're focused more on which hotkey I need to press. So with this new redesign, we wanted to make that button mapping feel really obvious. So some of them are pretty straightforward, just borrowed from what already exists. Like the translate is WASD and Q and E for going up and down, and the arrow keys are for rotation. But our more intentional approach has been with some of the other controller ones and the headset ones. So for this, we've thought of using the left square bracket to bring up any input method for on the left-hand side, because it's the left square, and then the right square will be the right input method. Pressing both of them together will activate both of them at the same time. So once you think of that, you're like, oh, okay, that's very easy to remember. Then similarly, if you press H for head, so you go into the headset mode and you can like look around. And then even for the trigger, grip, primary, secondary, we wanted the names to be like super easy. So T for trigger, G for grip, primary is 1 and 2. And then I think we want the UI to be a very quick glance. You don't have to keep it open all the time, because the top left menu that Alex showed, that should be giving you enough information. And I think my favorite part has been giving access to those hotkeys by just cycling through it with the tilde. And then when you press space, you can click on it. So it takes away the load of remembering even the T, G, 1, 2. You can just like look on top which one is highlighted. So I can see right now it's grip. If I want to switch to primary, I'll just hit tilde and it'll move to primary and I can hit that. Yeah.
Cool. And I think one other thing I almost forgot to mention is the XR Interaction Simulator has a new feature that the device simulator doesn't, which is point and click. So we can actually even interact even faster with objects by just simply, I'm moving my mouse right now, as you can see, and I can just go ahead and click. And there you go. I'm grabbing an object. I can also do UI here, interact with UI, very simple, very quickly, and it helps users iterate much more quickly. So let me go ahead and get straight to like the hands. I'm going to switch over to hand mode now. And as you can see in the upper left menu, you can see there are 3 gestures: poke, pinch, and grab. These gestures were all basically recorded the same exact way that Dave did in his demo. So this XR hand capture has allowed us to record hands, and now there's an additional layer above that, which is called the XR hand playback. And so you can actually play back the hand gestures, which means that we can actually simulate hand gestures in editor and skip having to test that. I mean, not skip it completely, but until the very end, having to always build and deploy to device just to test hand gestures. So let me go ahead and show you. You can see this is a poke. So this is a static hand gesture, but we also have multi-frame hand gestures. As you can see here, poke, pinch, sorry, you can do the whole pinch, and then also we have grab. And then I also want to show that you can actually interact with objects in the scene that way. So it's fully interactive in a way that the original simulator was not. So let me go ahead and show you now kind of the unique aspect of this. Here I go to my hand recordings, and you can see that I've recorded a thumbs up kind of recording before, using the same exact method that Dave used in his demo. I want to, once again, maybe, I know Dave covered this a little bit, but I want us to take a look at the data here. If we go down to the aim states, I have, let me see, I have a good one, I think around here. Yeah, you can see there's actual data from the hand capture, pinch strength, aim position and rotation. And all of this stuff means that it basically, these hand captures and the playback, the subsequent playback, behaves exactly like any hand gesture in an open XR compliant device. So let me go ahead. So all this to show you, you can actually include your own custom hand poses in the XR interaction simulator. So let's say you don't really care about poke or any other type of kind of the basic hand gestures that we include with the simulator. You can actually tailor your simulator experience for your specific application. So the way you do that is you go to the XR interaction simulator prefab. And if you scroll all the way down, you see the simulated hand playback manager component. You're going to want to open the simulated hand expressions. And then you can add a new hand expression here. So let's call my thumbs up recording, let's call it thumb maybe. And let me pull in my recording. All right, thumbs up. And in the case of thumbs up, maybe I don't really need it to be multi-frame since we only really care about this specific pose. So I'm going to go ahead and make it a single frame gesture. And so now we're going down to single frame index. So with single frame index, yeah, maybe now you're thinking, well, what frame exactly do I really want to use? Well, you can actually go back to window, go to the XR menu, go to XR hand capture, and now you can see that the kind of hand visuals have spawned there. You just move your recording into the recording section over here, and then you can actually scrub through your recording. And let's say, for example, oh, I kind of like frame 140 or something. I can go ahead and put frame 140 here and hit play. And let me go ahead to, let me go to hand mode. And if you look in the upper left corner, you can see there is a new panel there, thumb. That's my new custom hand pose. And so if I scroll over to that, you can see, there we go. There is my custom hand pose. And that way you can actually iterate your own custom poses in the editor without ever, I mean, I guess until the end, having to deploy to device. Yep, that is my demo.
That is incredibly cool. I for developers out there, I don't know about you, but like, I'm working in XR sometimes and my headset, the controller's dead. And then, oh, I messed up with MetaLink, not Meta's problem, my problem. And there's different things going on. And I'm just like, I just want to test this out. Like, to have this simulator to be able to test your custom gestures is super, super cool. This is great work by y'all on the team. Just from a developer to y'all, thank you. This is awesome. This is awesome. So we'll make sure to drop some more links in the chat for y'all to check out this documentation so you can dive in. Kind of to wrap up what we're doing here, I want Dilmer, if you have a few moments, I know you had a little demo you could show of a little bit of the work you've been doing, and then hopefully we can take a few questions before we wrap up for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Dave and then Alex and the entire Unity team show a lot. I just wanted to show a little bit of the meta link and then how you can go about testing some of these things by connecting your device. So if you look at my screen right now, I just wanted to also show, and I'll show you this live, how hand tracking works. This is the hand visualizer that Dave mentioned on his demo. I just did like a very simple rock, paper, scissors, and then just I brought that from the headset into Unity. It has a scriptable object. I was able to tweak it, and you can see here on the bottom right-hand side, I did use the debugger that Dave showed, but I also use a little bit of code to do the detection from a component that Unity provides. But let me go ahead and actually go back into Unity here and show you how this. So one thing to keep in mind if you are developing for MetaQuest, Dave shows you the MetaQuest Developer Hub, pretty helpful for casting type features. But there's also something called MetaLink, and this is how you can, when you hit play in Unity, it launches on your headset, and then you can basically test it with the headset on, and it's going to be closer. The debugger, the simulators are great, but this will be a little bit closer to the real experience, and then the last layer will be actually deploying to the device. But a couple of things in here that are important, like if you go to and download the meta link under developer runtime features are important. A pass-through over meta horizon link, specifically if you're building experiences with a pass-through camera, then you want to enable that. And then additional features here that you're also going to find. But let me go ahead and so I'm going to go into MetaQuest Developer Hub here. And I'm gonna, looks like I'm already casting. Let me see where that screen is. Nope. So I'll just go ahead and stop the casting, and then I start casting. So when you do that, the headset is connected via USB-C. And I'm gonna go ahead and put it on here. And I'm already running on MetaLink. So you're gonna see here so I have the menu running. So you're going to have these running, and then I have this scene, which is basically the hand capture scene that Dave just showed. The difference between that scene is that I have some custom, a custom gesture that I already captured. So if I go into hand capture, and then where to snap this here, and I can now get closer. You're going to see that, as he showed you, you can go and look at, rock, paper, scissors, and then at the point that whenever you want to capture one of these, basically you associate it with a hand shape. I already did all of that, so I'm going to show you so you can see here that I have like a gun, a hand shape that I'm detecting, a paper, a rock, and a scissors, and also a 2-finger. So if we go into hand basic, the difference between the demo that he showed you and mine is I have this other component that is going to be detecting the gesture. And if you were to import the samples, you're going to see that this hand shape completeness calculator is already available. You're going to call the try calculate hand shape completeness score, which is a very verbose method. But if you wanted to do it from code, you could basically, they already handle all the complexities here. I'm not going to go through it, but you can look at it on your own. And then it's going to basically return a value. And that value, it's going to be from, it's going to be kind of a percentage. Like if it's closer, I'm already specifying the minimum here. So I'm saying if it's greater than 90%, if it detected it, then I'm going to be logging that information. So all you need to do here is just passing the hand that you're going to detect it on, the hand shape that you have already saved, and then and then this is going to be a now variable that is going to be accessible in the scope of your code. So now if I go back and we were to run it, so let me go ahead and close this. So if you close that, you're going to see that the hand mesh goes away, which is really cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And I want you to keep an eye on the console. I would recommend using the debugger that they show you. It's way more intuitive. This is what I built, I would say, about 6 months ago. So you can see here that in the latency is pretty good, right? Like I can move my hands really fast. Everything is getting detected. Another thing that you can also do that I think is really cool, if I go closer to here, you're gonna see that there is a hand visualizer component. So this is something that is very powerful when you're running with MetaLink or with the debugger. Let's see if I can, because I can see all the different joints in here render. So if you wanted to look at, okay, I want to look at the joints and all the different values, and let's say that you, for whatever reason, you wanted to do that, maybe you wanted to put a ring in here on your experience or some kind of a tool, then you can do that. So right now we detected, okay, let me try rock. So you can see that I got detected. And you're getting a score, and that's basically that number from 0 to 1 that I was showing you. It's basically a percentage. And then if I wanted to do Z-source, you can do that. And then if I wanted to do my palm here, paper, and that also got detected. So yeah, that's just a quick demo. I know that we're running out of time, but yeah, great job to the Unity team. I used the emulator as well quite a bit. I didn't really know there was an interaction one, so glad that I learned about that.
Super cool, super cool. No, thanks, Dilmer, for sharing the demo, and I feel like we're all learning together. So I wanted to pass it off to Dave one last time to kind of talk about the roadmap for the future with
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as everyone's been calling out here, like, yeah, they're not aware of this. This thing is new. Yeah, we're constantly improving the tools. We're constantly adding new features and capabilities. The most recent stuff that we've added that I will just kind of like direct you all to kind of go check out. We've got some pre-release packages for the XR Hands, the XR Interaction Simulator, and OpenXR that expose 2 new extensions for hands. One is the hand tracking data source, and one is the hand joint motion range. And what this does is lets you basically pipe hand tracking through your controllers as well. So if you're holding controllers, it will actually run through our hand tracking subsystem so that you're seeing hands in the scene rather than controllers. And the two work together to kind of constrain and make sure the hand motion is working when you're holding your controller so that it looks more natural. So again, it helps with the more hands first nature that we're moving into. We're also looking to expose a bunch of other new extensions in the near future. Things like frequency hint so that you can control how basically the hand frequency per application rather than having to go into the Quest system menu to adjust between normal or high frequency, and then wide motion range where it's now being able to track a little bit wider outside of your normal camera range to make sure that you get a more robust experience when doing hand tracking. And then we're hoping to implement micro gesture support in the near future as well. Dilmer talked about that a little bit. And then just in general, we've gotten a lot of feedback from the community about how well some of these things work. So we're working really hard on stabilizing a lot of the pose data, fixing bugs, and stabilizing how all of the hand poses come through from whatever source it is, whether it's a different device or OpenXR. Just making sure that there's kind of a one-stop shop where you can deploy once and make sure that your hand poses are equivalent across all platforms. And then we're also doing a huge overhaul on our poke interaction. We've heard lots from our community. We hear you. We are working on it very hard to make our poke interactions much, much better. Yeah, and then also just leveraging our hand capture for a lot of other interesting interactions. So that's it. Yeah, Dilmer, did you want to say anything about the meta roadmap?
Yeah. So I'm more on the developer advocate side of things. So I'll tell you what I've been working on as it relates to hands. So we're heavily invested on doing agentic workflows by leveraging the Unity MCP. But along those lines, if you pull my my slide, we're actually implementing agentic workflow. So this is an additional MCP extensions that allow you to also add hand interactions, grabbables, so that you could basically prompt either Claude or Codex and say, so this is some of the things that I've been heavily invested, early prototype that I built. I'm building a new prototype where you can just say, hey, add an interaction rig. And I know there were some questions about locomotion. So this interaction rig is more complex because it has locomotion capabilities. It has far interactions, close poke interactions. So this is some of the areas that we are currently investing on. Obviously, like we are working with developers quite a bit during hackathons and trying to push more towards hands. Last year we did a global hackathon on DevPost, and one of the main tracks was hands. So I don't want to promise you anything, but we're looking into doing another hackathon this year. We love to see developers thinking about use cases that will be hand first, multimodal. I'm really excited. I'm not sure where we're going to release it, but like if you have ideas and you're thinking about it, or you're working on a project, we're also thinking about doing updates. So it's not just going to be a new application. It could be an application that is already in place, and maybe you want to enhance because it makes sense. So yeah, I think that's as far as what I have for roadmap. Yep. Back to you, Brandon.
No, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dilmer. So I know we're running close on time. I'm hoping we can answer 1.5 questions here before we end. The first question is actually for you, Alex. Daniel Ruiz Lev VA 3825 from YouTube asked a question around the multi-frame option for the simulator. They asked, when would you use multi-frame option to hold a pose over time before triggering an event? Does the current framework support dynamic gestures?
Yeah, so basically, let's say, for example, if you know like the backing of like OpenXR, there's a pinch, position, or rotation, but there's also pinch value. So there's different levels of, I would say, pinch strength. So that is kind of what a multi-frame gesture is for. It's so that you can simulate the different levels of pinch strength over time. And there are possibly other gestures that also do that, like grip. You're going to want to maybe like, simulate that change in strength over time. And these are what are our dynamic gestures.
Yeah, and just to add to that, there is the other piece of this, which is the dynamic gestures. So a lot of what we've shown is like static hand shape and static hand poses. We do plan to add support in the future for dynamic gestures. So whether it's like a swipe or some motion attributed to that pose, like a bloom gesture, whatever it is. So that is coming in the future, but that's distinctly different currently than using the multi-frame option in the simulator.
Awesome. Thank you both, Alex and Dave. So final question for today. I'm going to throw this to you, Ketki, and also Dilmer really quickly. There's a question from Greg Karnev and at FondWorks about what about wearables? Could we possibly see a situation where we're using wearables also with the hands, adding physical feedback and things like that? Really quickly, do y'all think that's a future that could be possible? And how do you envision that happening? I'll start with you, Ketki, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because wearables are meant to not have accessories, like hands is like a really good input for that. So I absolutely see like hands first thinking, everything that we talked about here thinking intentionally about what the interaction needs to be when you're using hands, be a future on those.
Awesome. And Dilmer, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like hands first, like thinking about, we do get that question quite a bit at different events, specifically the Meta wristband and how that could be integrated. And we also heard about rings, but there's really nothing out there that we publicly can talk about. I'm sure there's like research and development teams thinking about all these things. But yeah, like I think our focus is improvements on hand tracking. Every version keeps getting better and better. So that's that's really what I can say about it. I think hands, are great input for wearables going forward. I know many other companies using, I was at AWE and I saw many companies using hand tracking with their lighter, more kind of Google Glass type, Meta Ray-Ban type devices. So I think, it's out there. People are, it's available. There's some prototypes from Google as well that I've seen. So I think the future is lighter headsets, hand tracking first, and then controllers for more precise experiences or more control.
Awesome.
I think I got confused by the question. When you said wearables, I thought you meant just the headset part of it. I didn't. Yeah, but
no, I think it was great. I think it was great.
I think you did great.
Yeah, I think thinking about all those different mediums is definitely the future of XR. So I want to really thank our guests today. Thank you so much, Alex, Dave, Ketki, and a special shout out to Dilmer for joining us. I'm actually going to drop your socials in the chat so people can connect with you either on Twitter and also on YouTube. Please check out Dilmer. His work is amazing. He's awesome. Like I told you, he's inspired me to be who I am. But genuinely, thank you, XR Hands team here at Unity. I mean, just the love in the chat for what y'all are doing, the future. Honestly, I think we could do this particular stream probably for 3 hours with all the different conversation and comments and questions that people have. So thank you for giving of your time. With that, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's to come. So thank y'all for joining. But we're going to talk a little bit about what's to come. But before I do that, I do want to let you all know that if you've been tuning in for the whole time, a little bit of the time, or you just popped in at the end, if you're interested more in XR Hands, that hands first methodology, I'm going to drop in here a link to the blog that was done that covers a lot of what we talked about today in today's stream, so you can dig in and learn. I've personally used it, been learning a lot going through that process, so please check it out. Just dropped it in the chat for you all. Also, for those who have been enjoying the conversation in the chat, for those who have been asking great questions, for those who have really enjoyed the community aspect that is Unity and also the Meta community, please join us on our official Unity Discord. I'm going to drop that link into the chat right now for you all. If you'd like to join us in there, you'll see Unity employees and Unity, XR, fans and game devs all in that community. It's a great place to learn, grow, and get to meet new people. But it doesn't stop here. This is just the beginning, because next week we're gonna have a really, really, really fun stream that's coming. Our next stream, called Animate Thousands, Experience Zero Lag. It's all with textures. In this next stream, you'll learn all about how vertex animation textures can be used with ECS to put thousands of characters on screen with very little overhead. Our own Corey Green will be joining us to share all of his technological secrets. You don't want to miss this one. Personally, I know Corey Green. He's a part of the team, the advocacy team here at Unity. Awesome guy. Somebody who I really look up to, who I ask a lot of questions to when it comes to a lot of different things. So that should be a really, really great stream. So please join us next week. And the really cool thing is Joy will be back. I'll just be lurking in the chat so you can catch me there, but Joy will be back. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Alex, Dave, Ketki, and of course, Dilmer for joining today. Thank you all for being a part of the Unity live stream. We love our community. We love that you all join, ask questions, have fun. And until next time, y'all take it easy.